on Midlife Conversations, I've got Dr. Paul Barattiero. Did I pronounce that right, Paul? Help me out. Paul Barattiero.
Barattiero.
Barattiero. I was way off. This has become a joke now with my guests. I don't even ask them beforehand. I just start. I see if I can nail it. I apparently didn't. But anyways, I wanted to have him on today because I wanted to talk hydration. Now, before you tune out, this is important because we're not just talking about why you should drink a gallon of water a day or why you need to have your 8 glasses. We're going to talk deeper than that, like the right type of hydration. Yes, there is a right way and there is an incorrect way. We're going to talk about how much. We're going to talk about what to look for. The reason I wanted I wanted Paul on specifically is this is his research area. He has been doing this for years. He has studied hydrogen gas. He's studied the benefits of this and how the right amount, the right way can reduce oxidative stress, can fix chronic inflammation, can help offset, prevent, reverse disease, can fix our gut biome, a whole host of things. You are the go-to expert on this. Thank you. I'm going to call you Dr. Paul. It's easier to pronounce.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
Thanks, Dr. Paul, for being here today.
Thank you. So awesome to be with you.
So let's back up a bit because you're an ND by trade.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were doing years ago, we should drink 8 glasses of water a day.
Yeah.
Where did this become so important? Tell us the story behind this.
Where did the hydrogen?
Where this interest in water and hydrogen gas and the proper hydration come from?
So it's kind of a funny story.
Okay.
Going back 20 years ago, my wife, the love of my life, my queen, we've been married almost 30 years now. February will be 30 years, February 2024. And so the first 10 years of our marriage, my sweetheart was sick. She had thyroid issues. She had gynecological issues. She had what's called adenomyosis, for anyone that knows what that is. She had hypothyroid, and she also had what we found out later was yeast in her brain. So her short-term memory was gone, like literally seconds. And so there was a lot going on. I would lose her for a week, a month. Every single month of our life, she would be lost during her menstrual cycle. And not to get gross, but she would about 30 to 60 ounces of blood per cycle. So she was anemic, highly anemic as well, and would just faint. She'd make a certain noise and I would know I need to come running to help her. So this was our life, and I wanted to help her. My scope of practice at the time was diabetes. I was focused completely in diabetes and preventing amputations and having people keep their toes and their feet. And so it wasn't my scope of practice, but I had to learn, I had to figure out how I could help this woman who I was in love with and still am today. How can I help her have her potential, her divine potential?
So this is interesting. You said funny story. I don't know that it's a funny story, but what I'm hearing is that your ND practice initially was a little bit more like mainstream medical, where it wasn't on preventative, it was on focus on disease on progression. So you were saying they already have diabetes, let me help them not progress this. So you weren't yet like fully into the preventative side of things. Is that right?
No, right. And really at that time, I was trying to prevent ulceration and amputation, because our studies showed that after one amputation, they had a year to live. After a second amputation, which was pretty often, they had 5 years and then 1 year to live. And I was wanting to prevent people dying, basically. And so I developed a line of shoes that were wide enough. Believe it or not, the answer to not having people lose their feet were giving them wide enough shoes that they could wear, because and that's it, literally inserts that would go in their shoes to spread pressure so they wouldn't have hot spots. And I'm telling you, in 15 years, we reduced amputations by 65% in the United States of America. They did a study on this. So it was very rewarding to be involved with that. But and I'll give a little carrot, and then we'll go back and talk about what was funny about the story. But what ended up happening is I found out that hydrogen can stop glucose issues and impair glucose tolerance with diabetes. And so I began giving people that had diabetes mellitus water with hydrogen in it. And within 3 to 5 days, their blood glucose levels were normal. And I was losing my mind, because I'm like, okay, it's great to give them a pair of shoes that they won't have any amputation. it's a whole nother
Yeah.
world to be able to stop the disease. And so I'm extremely passionate about preventing disease. I just didn't know at the time that we could stop diabetes, that we could stop disease models in their tracks. That's what I
Okay.
then switched my entire focus to, was prevention.
So what we know is when we have blood sugar dysregulation, which is diabetes, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Any blood sugar dysregulation,
yeah.
typically that is a progression of other things being off in our body. So you can have blood sugar dysregulation from parasites, from poor gut health,
Mhm.
from lots of things, from anything being off in your body could create that, right? And then, but we typically go to it's hypoglycemia or it's diabetes or it's pre-diabetes,
Yeah.
where to me, what I've learned is it's sort of a progression. That blood sugar dysregulation is one of those first things we see with other things going on in our bodies. How did you, because we always go to, okay, we need insulin in the Western medicine, or we might go in more natural to let's do some berberine, let's just go on a keto diet.
Yeah.
How did you figure out, no, wait, adding hydrogen, and like, where did that even come from to go, let me look in, because you could have been adding hydrogen and then also saying, but wait a minute, but they were also on a keto diet or whatever. So how did you correlate that this was the thing?
Well, this was prior to keto. This is 20 years ago now. But what ended up happening is we just gave individual in the beginning, I just gave some individuals like test cases, right? I
Mhm.
gave some individuals that were 30-year diabetic. So they were 30 years diabetic. Some were insulin dependent, some were non-insulin dependent, what we call type 1 or type 2 diabetes mellitus. Um, Really, what we've learned now is that there's a lipid and glucose metabolism issue in the body. That's really where diabetes um, issues come from, is that lipid and glucose metabolism the body is not able to utilize, believe it or not, uh, insulin. So,
Mhm.
and then you also have IGT, which is impaired glucose tolerance. So that's where the body kind of rejects glucose. And so what I would say is that every disease, it doesn't matter what the disease is, it comes from the combination of oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. Whether it's kidney or liver or your pancreatic system, so that you can't process sugars and fats and things, whether it's some other compartment in the body, whether it's gut damage, which is still what happens when you have gut damage. Oxidation rises until you have oxidative stress. So all disease, it doesn't matter which one, you have hundreds to choose from, like, but it's all oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. That is the leading cause of disease. And there are multiple pathways to get to where you have oxidative stress and inflammation. And typically it always starts from dysfunction in the gut.
Okay, let's back up a minute because there's people listening that don't fully understand what this means, and I
Yes.
want to get really granular on this. So, like, so we know what antioxidants are. We hear that that's the opposite of oxidative stress. Like, we're trying to help with that, so we people have that information. We're also big believers. People, a lot of listeners, like, oh, it's my genes, it's genetically this. This is what's happening. Help us understand, what does it actually mean to have oxidative stress? What causes that? And what is chronic inflammation? Because a lot of people think of inflammation as something they see, like they visually see it.
Right. Right. Okay, so let's talk about those three things that you brought up. Um First of all, oxidation is critical to life. We have to have there's two powers. So when we talk about homeostasis, which we can get into in a minute, but homeostasis is where you have a balance between oxidation and reduction. There's two very powerful things in the body that we need to have, a yin and a yang, as people would call it, but oxidation, which is normal and natural, and then reduction, which keeps oxidation in a normal range so that we can function as individuals. Oxidative stress is when oxidation rises to an unhealthy level, and now we start to have cell function issues. Our cells are no longer functioning normally, and that's what oxidative stress. So oxidation is normal and natural, and we need it to live. Normally the body has its own antioxidant system, and we are able to counteract the radicals that are in our body, either radicals due to diet, due to stress, due to antioxidants that are broken down once they donate their electron, for example, they become a pro-oxidant. And so that's another oxidant in the body that our body would have to deal with. If our gut is functioning properly and our antioxidant systems that are inherent to our body are functioning properly, we will be able to modulate or convert those radicals into no issue at all. The problem is biologically, if the body no longer has the ability to counteract the radicals that are being created through normal function of our body, then oxidation rises, and we end up with oxidative stress. Typically, these are reactive oxygen species, what we call ROS. So there's only a handful of radicals that are actually harmful to us. We talk a lot about free radicals or radicals in general. And quite honestly, most radicals have a life-sustaining role, or what's called a physiological role. They're good for you. And so it's just like hydroxyl radicals, superoxide, these kind of things are damaging to the mitochondrial function. They're damaging to our body. Those are the radicals that we need to limit or get rid of. And that's what hydrogen does. What caused such a big stir in 2009 was that Nature Medicine published a study showing hydrogen to be a selective antioxidant, not like typical antioxidants that, like an antibiotic, it kills everything, good and bad. Antioxidants, your traditional antioxidants are the same. They will donate an electron and they'll mess with things that are good and mess with things that are bad. Hydrogen, on the other hand, is not an electron donor. It's not like a typical antioxidant. It only reacts with the reactive oxygen species. So the things that damage your cells and the normal function of the body, hydrogen stops those things from working. So when we talk about oxidation, it's healthy. When we talk about oxidative stress, it's harmful to us. And so the body's normal reaction to oxidative stress is inflammation. And that's not anything you're going to see initially. This is something that the body is responding to, and it's a very healthy, very good thing. The body basically deploys inflammation to help joints and help other systems in the body. It's a temporary fix. The problem is if we don't remove the source problem, then we end up with chronic inflammation, which means every day of your life you have inflammation no matter what. The combination of oxidative stress and chronic inflammation is disease.
Makes sense. Okay. So just like if I'm trying to understand correctly, so when you create inflammation, it's your body's way of trying to manage the problem from oxidative stress, just like cholesterol is your body's way of trying to manage other issues, right? Is
Oxidative
that like
stress.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah. So okay, so all these things. So what happens a lot of times in Western medicine is we try to treat the part of our body that's protecting us.
That's right.
Like incorrectly. Do I have this right? So like
yes, 100%.
I want to just try to follow this.
Yeah, we utilize multiple mechanisms to stop our body from telling us it has a problem.
Right. So I take this, I'm close to heart on this. So you have high cholesterol, and instead of saying like, what's creating the high cholesterol, let's address that. We're saying, let's address the cholesterol, which then just could make a bigger problem because now you've got, okay. So that's kind of what's happening here when we just go take like some anti-inflammatory medicine, right? Like just treat inflammation when we still haven't addressed the root. Am I following correctly?
Yes. So, and guess what? If we take something that reduces inflammation, it will reduce inflammation. The problem is if we don't take away the source problem, more damage is done in our body. Same is true for cholesterol or LDL. The reason your body puts LDL, you can imagine if there's a hole in your wall, somebody's got to patch that hole or there's a problem. Well, the same is true in your body. Your body starts to have weaknesses that occur when oxidative stress systemically. And what we mean is your entire body has oxidative stress, your veins and your vessels become weak. It's like a balloon. If it becomes weak, it can bust, right? And you can no longer hold that water in that water balloon or something like this, right? The same is true for our veins and vessels. you have blood pumping through them. If a vein or a vessel breaks, it's called hemorrhaging, and you can die from hemorrhaging internally. And so the reality is the body will say, oh, wait, I'm going to put a little patch over here. I'm going to put a little patch over here. I'm going to put a patch over here. And that's fat. It's cholesterol. The body put it there. The body can take it away when the source problem is gone, but the body won't take it away if you don't take away oxidative stress, because that's what's causing the weakness in the first place. Now, understand the body's doing a very good thing. But what happens if too much cholesterol is put into your veins and vessels? Now you have back pressure on the heart, and you can end up with heart attack, and that becomes your problem. But remember, your body was doing a good thing to begin with. It was helping you, but you didn't pay attention and take away its problem. And that temporary solution became another problem.
Right. And this is okay. So this brings me to the gut correlation, because let's say we have chronic inflammation happening and we're in pain, and because sometimes this relates to pain. And now we'd start taking NSAIDs or things to get rid of the pain. Now what we've done, because we probably had a gut problem, and now our body was, tell me and correct me if I'm going down the wrong path here, but you've got a gut problem. You've now got, your body's not processing things right. You've got chronic inflammation. You start taking NSAIDs to deal with this. And now you're creating a worse gut problem. And now the problem comes back like 10 times. Is that accurate? Okay.
Yeah. When we could have simply fixed the gut, therefore get rid of the oxidative stress systemically, and guess what? The body would take back the cholesterol on its own.
Okay. Which brings me full circle to why I wanted to have you on the show today and have these questions. So Dr. Paul has a very interesting twist on hydration and water and what he figured out to add to our water, to do to our water, to filter our water, that can actually get to the root of things. So before we get into like sort of that solution, I want to discuss water and hydration in general, because there's so much confusion now. And I want to just first of all say, I was born in 1971. I grew up on tap water. We didn't have filtered water. We didn't have bottled water. We weren't told to drink 8 glasses of water a day. I don't know how I survived without a water bottle and 8 glasses a day, but I made it to 52. So my question is, I think our water's changed. I have a lot of questions. We get confused. How much should we be drinking? What's the difference? Is it filter? Is it spring? Is it structure? Is it like, it's very confusing. So help us start. Let's start with that. Like, what are the differences? Where did that all come from? And how has our water changed?
So our water hasn't changed, but the world has changed. And we've introduced a lot of contaminants, some of which are chemicals that are used in agriculture. Some are metals that are in the pipes that deliver our water to us. Some are drugs that people are taking that their body doesn't fully utilize. And so when they go to the bathroom, the excess drugs go into the toilet. And if the municipality doesn't remove them, they're there. It's, it's one circle. And so if there's ever been a need to remove contaminants out of water, it is now. And there are so many chemicals, there are so many harmful things in water these days. You would be crazy, and I hate to speak so bluntly, but you're crazy to drink tap water. And guess what I learned the other day? 31% of the United States of America drinks tap water straight with no filtration. So you're getting class 3 narcotics, you're getting blood pressure medication. Crazy. You're getting heavy metals, you're getting glyphosate, you're getting the pesticides, you're getting who knows what.
Yes. And what's interesting is I would have been someone who says, I don't drink tap water. But what I wasn't thinking about is those times you go to the restaurant and they bring water with so we are drinking it. Like, even if you think you're not, or they're washing, like we're getting it regardless. Like, they're washing our lettuce, but like you are exposed to it. So we have to control what we can control in other places.
Yeah, so I'm the weirdo that when I sit down and they say, would you like water? And I say, is it filtered? And they look at you like, what? And I'm like, they're like, well, yeah. If they look like they don't know what they're talking about and they answer, yeah, I say, no. Do you get it out of a tap, like the faucet, or does it come out of your soda machine? Where do you get the water from? You're going to put in a glass and bring to me. oh, the tap. Even though they said it's filtered, they'll say
Right.
it's the tap, and I'll go, no, don't bring that to my table.
Yes. So I order bottled
Or they
water or
say,
carry
yeah,
my own.
I get it from the Coke machine. Okay, well, at least we know there's a carbon filter in a Coke machine because the water has to be filtered that goes into the sodas. So at least it's better. But, the reality is it's a concept people don't really understand yet.
Okay. So we know no to tap water. That is very 1970 of you. Let's stop the tap water. Why no tap water? Okay. So let's talk about now, let's go to the next level. What is the difference between, like, you just go buy a bottle of water? Let's just talk about that. Let's start with that. You buy a bottle of water from the store. Do you pick purified? Do you pick spring? Like I had learned recently, and correct me if I'm wrong, like spring and mineral water, because you got the minerals, is better than purified like Dasani. Is that correct or not correct?
Well, that's a loaded question. Let's go through that a little more detail because it's confusing. Anyone listening to Natalie and I, please understand, I feel for you because I've been doing this for 20 years. I understand water very specifically. It is arguably one of the most confusing topics in the world because everyone says their water's the best. Everyone says this is the kind of water, that's the kind of, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how you navigate the world of water on the internet or trying to figure out what
That's
to
why they
do for
don't. They
your
say I'm just
family.
drinking it out of the tap. I survived. That's
Yeah,
the
exactly. And so here's the deal. We have multiple things going on in our world. And part of it is simply a delivery model that we've created. Like when we look at these 16-ounce bottles, unfortunately, there was a study done. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, because the result was unfortunate. There was a study done in Europe a number of years ago that took the top leading bottle brands of water. So we're not picking on anybody because it's not the company. When they make these bottles, understand they start with a piece of plastic about the size of my thumb and they melt it, or they bring it to, they heat it and they almost melting point, and then they vacuum form that bottle into the shape of a 16-ounce bottle. And guess what happened? All the plastics, all the chemicals that were just disrupted in that dense piece of plastic they started with, if they would leave that bottle for a day or two, it would gas off all those chemicals.
Oh.
But because there's not space to store billions of these 16-ounce bottles, the next little stage in the machine is to put water in it. After they fill it, they put water in it and they put a cap on it. Well, now all the plastic and the chemicals and everything that was just disrupted when you melted that plastic is in your water. And now it goes to the next line and
Is
into
that
a,
when they say BPAs? Is that what that is? Or is it something different?
no, see,
Okay.
the bisphenol A is the plastic itself, the type of plastics. And they're saying that that comes out of the plastic over time. I'm just talking about all your
Just the production.
plasticizers, your chemicals that go into
Whoa.
making plastic. So you're melting. If anyone's ever smelled burning plastic or melting plastic, it's toxic, right?
Yeah.
So long story short, if someone's going to choose a bottled water, it's getting harder to find, but choose a glass bottle if you
I'm that
can.
person. I go get glass, spring
Yeah.
water, and then I refill. I'll even
Yeah.
refill that with my own
Like
water. But
Voss,
yeah,
Voss is a brand that had glass. Now they've gone to plastic too, but there's still some glass. You have Toscana. I think it's called Toscana. It's an Italian brand that's in like everywhere. Walmart even has it for like $1 something. You can get the glass bottles of water from Italy that are Toscana and very inexpensive. So I'm not saying that that's the best water. I'm saying when you're traveling to have something in glass, at least you know it wasn't melted
that makes
plastic
sense.
that's creating your bottle. So that's it,
Okay.
because the water going into these bottles is always pure. It's what they
Got it.
did to process the plastic.
Okay. Now
Now,
let's talk filter versus spring, because that's confusing.
yes, it's very confusing. So here's the deal. 100 years ago, spring water would have always been the choice because that water came through the dirt, the earth, there was a natural filtration process, and you picked up some energies and stuff that could be good from the earth. And so spring water would be wonderful, but I don't know that there's any such thing as clean spring water anymore, anywhere on this planet, because all the water is mixed with chemical runoff, all kinds of pollutants in the air that are coming down. So I would just tell you, cut to the chase, you cannot drink water that's unfiltered. Like you can't. It's just not a thing anymore. You have to. I'm to apologize for being the bearer of the bad news, but you can't do it. It's harmful to you, and you have to filter water. And so, believe it or not, it's easier than you think to get water to a place that's good for your body. We also need to dispel one myth in this process. A lot of people, unfortunately, talk about minerals in water being good for you. This is a non-truth. So let's go down that rabbit hole a little bit. Where does the minerals in water come from?
The soil.
Right. Right. So it's dirt. And I don't think anyone who's listening to you and I eats dirt, like
well, we eat all organic. Unfortunately, I think we're getting some dirt.
Right. So what we need to understand is the minerals in water come from the ground. Those minerals are called inorganic. So not anything to do with pesticides or non-pesticide. You have minerals in a certain state. You have elemental state, you have inorganic, and you have organic. The way minerals get to an organic state is by plants pulling minerals up out of the soil, converting it within themselves, and then those minerals are now bioavailable for the human body. And it's a new concept, I know, but we got to eat vegetables. So the reality is eating minerals from dirt is not as bioavailable to our bodies. So we should never be trying to get our mineral content out of water. Also, there's this misinformation being given that somehow pure water that has no minerals in it, is going to leach minerals from you. It's completely false, because that would, and for it to be true, that would mean water would need the minerals more than you. And that makes no sense, because water doesn't need minerals. Water doesn't need it at all, right? So our bodies need minerals to function, and we get it from our food. That's where we're supposed to get our minerals, is from food, not from water. And so everyone needs to be less concerned about getting your minerals from water as the source of minerals, because they are inorganic. They're not in an organic state that's bioavailable to our body. And therefore, pure water, which has always been the gold standard of medicine, what's called distilled water, has always been the gold standard. Now, distilled water is difficult because a water distiller boils water, and the whole premise is you boil the water, it turns to a gas. It's going to leave all the minerals behind, and then it turns back into water when it goes across the venturi and cools down. Now, there's a maintenance issue with distillers, because you got to clean all the calcium out and you got to clean all the minerals out. So I've chosen in my life reverse osmosis as the least expensive from a maintenance perspective, and the most theoretically pure, because you're never 100% of minerals gone. You're only anywhere from 5 to 10% of minerals left. So you 85, 90%, 95% is going to be the maximum you're going to get rid of the minerals. So you'll still have some minerals in the water, but you'll have no contaminants in the water.
Okay, before you go deeper into that, and then I want to talk about adding hydrogen and how we add things to it and things like that. I have questions. I want to understand. So when I drank distilled water was back years ago when I was doing fat loss, fitness, competitions, things like that. And you'd like, get as lean as you can. So we would do distilled water. I don't even understand why, but that's what we would do. But I remember it would like actually dehydrate you, or is that in my head? Was it that it would dehydrate us? Like it was like something, because it was supposed to be getting rid of all the sodium. I didn't really fully understand, but we were supposed to do nothing but distilled water that whole like week before competition.
The reason they want only distilled is because you're not bringing into your body any other contaminants that your body has to deal with.
Okay, got it.
That's why distilled water in medicine is used, because you're not introducing any other anomaly, because distilled is considered pure. Well, it's not really pure. There are still contaminants left in distilled water, but it's very few.
Okay. But I know there's no mineral, so you would, when you're getting rid of sodium and excess water, you're getting rid of every last drop of bloat and everything. That's when we would do distilled water.
Only because you're lessening the burden on the body. So your inflammatory response could be less because of you're just bringing pure water in. And so kidney inflammation, liver inflammation can be reduced, and therefore your kidneys can function at a higher capacity and you get rid of stuff.
Okay, so I had kind of sort of information, but not fully correct.
Mm-hmm.
Before you talk about reverse osmosis,
yeah,
let's talk about structured water for a minute, because that's
okay.
the trendy thing right now. People say
Yeah.
they structure their water, and I'm guilty of it too. I got a little device in my house. I put my water in there. I structure it. I don't know what it's doing, but I'm structuring it. It's supposed to help with understanding us.
Structure can mean two things. Let's talk about what it could possibly mean, because when someone says structured water, they could be referring to a molecular structure. Like there was a company, Pi Water, that got sued years ago and lost everything because they were saying it was a hexagonal shaped water cluster. It was proven false and they got in big trouble and basically are gone. So when it comes to physical structure, I don't agree with being able to structure water in certain shapes.
So we hear like H3O, is that a
well,
thing?
H3O is just another hydrogen that you can make. It's extremely rare. It's extremely difficult to make that in nature. But I mean, when I'm talking structure, I mean the water clusters. So you have H2O, 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 all these clusters that group together. And it's not plausible that you can support a hexagonal shaped structure, because water is not like the hydrogen and oxygen mate for life. Stuff's coming in and out of, connection all the time. And so if you were trying to support a structure size like some hexagonal structure, it would be almost impossible because stuff's moving constantly. Water is very volatile. So I don't at all agree with physical structure when you're talking about structured water. But the other side of the coin is energy, frequency, emotion. That I 100% support. And I know for a fact you can do that in water, and we do it in water. Mm-hmm. But that goes back to Missouri Emoto's work, which I have up here on my bookcase next to me here. I have 5-6 books from Missouri Emoto just on water and structuring. And just understand it's more of an art than a science for sure, because it's pretty difficult to duplicate something exactly the same time. But something as simple as holding this glass of water in my hand right here, my right hand especially, if I'm feeling gratitude, I'm feeling love, I'm feeling compassion, that energy is going to go into this water, and I'm going to drink that in with gratitude and love and compassion, because water can take on that energy from me. Likewise, if I have anger, then it's going to take on anger. Now, that
for people that don't know, sorry, I want to interrupt for a minute, because some people don't. I know who that is, Missouri Emoto, but some people don't. Can you just do like a little brief, quick, what that was about the crystal structures?
Yeah, so he was a gentleman from Japan. He ended up passing away in California. He ended his life, and he didn't end it. He was 80 something years old and passed away. But he actually would take water and he would play music, certain rock and roll. He would play classic music. He would say things like, "I love you, you're smart, you're amazing," or "I hate you." And then he would freeze those waters, like rapid freezing, and it would make shapes in the ice crystals that were very different. The premise behind it is that the positive affirmations, the positive thoughts and feelings would make beautiful ice shapes, and the different type of music, hateful things that you could say to water would make like a dissonant, like no ice crystals. They weren't, it was just like a blob there. That was his work. So people started doing it on their own and making YouTube videos about duplicating it. So, but he would also do stuff where he would put rice in water and then have positive things on it, and it wouldn't mold, it would stay good. And then he would have harmful things, "I hate you, you're dumb," whatever, and it would start getting black and mold. And so this was something he did in water. And so I would take it a little bit step further. If you have a glass of water and the premise is, hey, you can affect this water with your own energy and thoughts and focusing on that, what are you? you are a big glass of water, aren't you? So,
Yeah, because we're mostly made up of water.
right. So the way we think and feel all the time is structuring the water inside of us,
That makes sense.
theoretically.
So
So
this
be
goes with
careful.
my Paul. This is like out there, maybe you'll understand, but this goes with my thought too, with people with what they believe they're drinking. So like people that are like really into their structured water, their mineral water, like they're literally with their intentions going, this is giving me the fountain of youth and whatever. So I think kind of what you're saying is actually doing that a lot of to what we're drinking, I think.
Well, if you have positive mental attitude, then you're structuring your own water, right?
Mhm.
So to answer your question, I do absolutely believe that water can carry frequencies, energy, information. I absolutely believe water can be a vehicle for good and bad into our bodies. And that's what I'm utilizing when I develop the
Makes
system.
sense.
I'm using water as a delivery mechanism to help. And in my case, it was my wife who we normalized her menstrual cycle in 6 months. We no longer had all the issues. And here she is many years later now, 20 years later, thriving and living a wonderful life. And so, do I believe that water can be utilized to change the body? Of course. And that's what I set out to then do, because people have to drink water.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty of like what you created now, because
Yeah.
so let's explain reverse osmosis and then how are you're adding hydrogen to it. So I want to understand this.
Yeah. So the first step, like water 101, filter it, get the crap out of water, get the contaminants out of water. Don't dare drink water from your municipality straight. Like, at least use a fridge filter or something in your life to get some of these chemicals, these forever chemicals from cookware, from, I mean, just uh, please understand there's so many chemicals,
And I
pesticides
assume
in the
water
water.
fountains are basically tap water too, correct?
They are, but most of them do have a filter.
Some filter. Okay.
Yeah, basic filtration, not a real good one, but they do have filtration. So understand that first and foremost, filter the water,
Okay.
get the contaminants out.
Even your spring water.
After,
Even your
what is
spring
it?
water. Even your
Yeah,
spring
even your spring
water.
water. Because guess what? Animals pee and poop in springs. So most of your bottled water that say spring water is below pastures, cow pasture
Oh,
fields in
wow.
California, to
That's
be
not
honest.
good. So we
Yeah.
got E.
So
coli now in our water.
yeah. So and who knows what else? Whatever they're eating and they pee out, it goes down into the groundwater. And a lot of people try and debate me and say, but I live in, I don't know, Oklahoma, and I have a well and it's pure water. I've had someone test it and they say it's great. And I'm like, okay, well, what are they testing it for? Right. That's what you have to understand. And what I want everyone to understand out of this conversation is, anytime, let's just pretend you have that beautiful, pristine well that you think is beautiful. Anyone spraying pesticides within a 300-mile radius, those pesticides get in the groundwater and they will get into your well from 300 miles away. So it's pretty difficult to live anywhere in the United States where you don't have someone that has a farm within 300 miles spraying pesticides. It's almost impossible. So just know you have to filter water, and it's not expensive. What I want people to understand is to get appropriate filtration is not that expensive.
Okay. So number one, filter it.
Yes.
And then what is reverse osmosis mean?
Reverse osmosis is a multiple cartridge system that has carbon, two different types of carbon. It has polypropylene typically, and then it has a membrane that has such tiny little holes that it forces water through and everything else is left behind. And so you end up with water, H2O, with very little mineral content, but you do have some mineral content going through the membrane. And that, in my opinion, is amazing water. It tastes good. It doesn't
Mhm.
have a taste to it. It's pure. It would be technically considered soft water, but you're not using salt to get that
Okay.
soft water. So it's pure water with a very small mineral content, and it's wonderful.
Okay. So now let's talk about what you discovered and the
Yes.
programming and adding hydrogen and all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. And again, please understand, I discovered it by accident. And that's where the funny story comes in. My wife and I were on a cruise, and it was her first day of her menstrual cycle. It was a 9-day cruise. And some friends of ours brought some water with them that they said was this amazing water. And my wife was, I was prepared for her to be in bed 7 of the 9 days of our cruise. And she began drinking this water, and she was like, honey, my body's craving this. And she put her fist together and she said, I can't stop drinking this. And I'm like, what?
Whoa.
Yeah. And I drank the water, and I didn't levitate off the ground or sprout wings or any magic
Mhm.
thing. And so I'm like, you drink the water. I'll drink the toilet water on the ship. That's what my friends were calling it. And you drink the water they brought for you. And sure enough, within 3 days, she was up and participating in the cruise. And I lost my mind. Like, what the heck is this?
So this does not sound wacky to me, because there's been times, because I drink all different types of water and I've bought different bottles. There's times where I've had that experience and I didn't really connect the dots, but where there was a certain brand of water where my body was like craving it. And
Yeah.
it's not like even a thirsty thing. It's just like I wanted more, I
Yeah.
wanted more. And then there's
Yeah.
sometimes where I'm like struggling to even finish the water I want to drink for the day.
Right.
So
Right.
that's making sense, that I think intuitively our bodies actually know
Yeah.
where we're lacking and what we need.
And if there's something in the water that's good for it, that can help it, the body will demand it and crave it. And so the funny part of the story is, who brings water on a cruise? But my friends brought gallons of water for us and for them. And I was like, what is this water? And how will it help people with diabetes? Because of course, that's where I was at the time. Well, my wife started drinking the water from their place afterwards. And it wasn't necessarily hydrogen water, but the ORP, what's called the oxidation reduction potential of the water, was a negative ORP. And so it helped her body. And so she started to benefit. Well, then I quickly began doing research. I wanted to understand what was the mechanism. Okay, I understand my wife's feeling better. I don't deny that and can't deny that. But why? I want to understand why. And so it took a while of reading and reading and reading anything I could find. And I came to learn that the greatest thing you could do is to add hydrogen to water. Now, that's only because we're not producing in the body like we're supposed to. The creator of our body, the designer, the engineer, whatever you want to call it, designed our bodies to have a hydrogen generator in them. We call it flatulence, fart therapy, whatever you want to call it. But the point is, we are supposed to have bacteria in our gut. That's our immune function. 70% of immune function is tied to the bacteria in our gut. We're supposed to have a very specific type of bacteria called anaerobic microflora. 91 to 96% of the bacteria in our gut should be anaerobic. Now, there are these neat little bacteria called hydrogen trophs. They convert short chain and medium chain fatty acids as well as fiber into hydrogen gas if we have these hydrogen trophs in our gut. The problem is 97% of the population have gut dysfunction, and so they don't have this ability anymore. And so if they're not producing hydrogen the way they're supposed to, then they'll have oxidation rising, and they'll have oxidative stress. And hydrogen is critical. Everything from stomach acid, HCl, what's the H? Hydrogen, right?
Right.
So if you don't have hydrogen in your system, your body is not functioning at all the way it was designed. You don't have energy production, mitochondrial function. You don't produce ATP and energy like you're supposed to. You don't have plasticity in your brain. You don't have the alpha and beta waves balance. There's a lot of stuff going on in our world today. And hydrogen gas can fix that. But remember, I didn't create hydrogen gas. It's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
We are supposed to produce it in our body because it's so critical. If we go down to the molecular structure of our body, it's carbon hydrogen chains. Everything requires hydrogen to function in our body. So with that being said, I designed and developed a water system. And inside of this water system, we take H2O. You can imagine you have 2 hydrogen gas, 1 oxygen gas. When they come together, they create a liquid. That's where water comes from, H2O, but it's 2 gases. When they combine, some amazing thing happens and they make a liquid. Well, what we're doing is, as you can imagine, water flowing through this machine, we're taking a very small percentage of water molecules and we're separating them back into H2 and O. And we're sending oxygen to the environment so you can breathe it. And we're dissolving just the H2 part of H2O into the remaining liquid water coming through the machine.
Wow.
That's what we're doing. And so the H2 molecule, the hydrogen, is in the water going along in a dissolved state, which means you don't see it, but it's in there as a gas in water. And then when you drink it, you now have hydrogen in your body the way you're supposed to. The first thing that will happen is we could do an EEG and we could test your brain and show a 32% change in plasticity typically. So the flexibility.
32%, that's a lot.
Yeah, in 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then 58% normalization of alpha and beta waves within 3 to 5 minutes. Huge.
That's wild.
Yeah. So people that have neurologic issues, Parkinson's, we have studies on all these things, adding, you know, ADD, ADHD.
So is it pretty instant how you would feel different drinking this water, or do you have to be doing this for months, or how does that work?
No, some things are minutes and some are a few days, right? It depends on the issue. But we developed a website called hydrogenstudies.com. And all that's on there are 1,250 studies showing every study we could find from 1970s on through. So believe it or not, for cancer, there were hydrogen hyperbaric chambers in 1977 that were being studied. The earliest studies I found, 1888, on hydrogen being an antioxidant. And so we knew this in the 1800s. And World War II, they were using hydrogen for gunshot wounds. I mean, believe it or not, it's not anything new.
So,
but
Paul, does drinking, so like if I'm using an oxygen chamber right now, for example, am I getting like that same benefit? Is it like this is good to double up? Or these different things? Or what?
You would use them in concert. So if you have a oxygen hyperbaric chamber, oxygen is an oxidizer. So you're putting an oxidant into your body, and what a chamber does, well, they don't know if it's the pressure or the oxygen yet. We don't really know if it's the fact that you're under pressure that it helps you, or if it's oxygen. But oxygen is an oxidant, hydrogen is an antioxidant. And so I would say you would drink some of the hydrogen water before, and then you would drink it after. I just spoke at IHA, which is the International Hyperbaric Association, on hydrogen and how you use it in connection with a oxygen hyperbaric chamber. So use it before and after, and you're going to have tremendous benefits.
Okay. Now you mentioned when we talked on the phone, and maybe this is like, I'm getting too off track, but you said something about you can program your water, like you can
with formulas. Yes.
What does that
we have
tell me what that means?
Yeah, a separate system. So hydrogen is why you would get the device, the machine, because you want hydrogen to reduce inflammation. You want hydrogen to reduce oxidative stress. You want hydrogen to help with disease models. Currently, with the 1,250 studies, you have 217 double-blind, placebo-controlled human studies and 217 disease models that hydrogen mitigates. So there's 62 studies on diabetes alone, 117 studies on cancer types.
This is not talked about enough. This is crazy.
No,
like we just talk about pharmaceuticals, and it doesn't even this is wild. Okay,
Parkinson's, 62 studies on Parkinson's and how hydrogen stops or benefits Parkinson's disease.
Like why wouldn't we all want this? Like even if there's just a chance, like why it doesn't even, like, to me that's a pretty good gamble. Like why would we not? So can you put this on any, like, did you just put this on your own tap water at home? What do you do with it? How does it work?
So two of the machines that we make, you just put it on to your municipal water. There's a filter in it that removes heavy metals, pesticides, pharmaceuticals out of your water, so that you're drinking water. We also have a reverse osmosis system with no tank, so it's making a 1/4 gallon a minute of reverse osmosis water. And so with us, you have different levels of filtration. If someone says, no, I want to keep my minerals, the filter that's built into our machine, you'll keep all your minerals.
Like, what if I wanted to use like my mineral water that's delivered right now? Could I filter
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, you can run that right through our machine, no problem.
So you have a machine that you like literally just run. So whether it's your tap water or whatever, you're just
So
running it through.
if you connect to your tap water,
Mhm.
then that's simple. The machine can do that as it is. If you're wanting to supply water to the machine in 5-gallon bottles, those blue
Yep.
bottles, there's a pump that's $150 that you can buy that will pump it into our machine.
Got it.
And so no problem.
Okay. So yeah, because like to me, psychologically, maybe it goes back to what we said about structuring and what your energy. I
Mhm.
can't turn on the tap and drink the water from there. It just like something is weird to me, even if I were to
Yeah, you
go
shouldn't.
filter it. Like I don't want, but I mean, even if I'm filtering it, like to me, I want to like I have my delivered water that
Mhm.
I've got high water standards
Yep.
here, but so
Yeah,
you
that's
could do
good.
that.
Yeah.
And then what I know you have like portable water bottles. What does that do? Is that just to use for it, or does that actually filter the water you put in there?
No, that's for when you're away from your machine.
Okay. And
So
what does that do?
it makes the hydrogen water. So
Oh,
we
so you just
have
pour
a,
any water in your little bottle and that's going to do that.
yeah, I should go grab one. I can
Yeah.
go
I'm
grab
going to
one.
pause it for a second. You
Okay.
go grab it.
Okay. That's what,
Okay. That's what it is. So how does that work? Show us how that
yeah.
works. If you're watching
So,
on YouTube, you can see this exact bottle here.
yeah. So this is the Echo Go Plus. We have the Echo Go and the Echo
Okay.
Go Plus. All that they do is they would put purified water. This does not have any filtration.
Got it.
So they would put purified water, filtered water, and then all they do is push the button
And
and
that adds hydrogen to it.
yeah, can you
Yeah.
see it?
Wild. Okay. Oh yeah. That's super cool. Okay.
Yeah. So out the bottom is coming oxygen
And does it make it
gas.
bubbled? Like, is it a bubble water then, or what happens?
No,
No.
no. Yeah, it's not carbon dioxide.
Okay. So it's just it looks like bubbles, but that's why I was wondering that. So, but it's just
Yeah, can you
they're
see
just
it?
adding it in there. And how long do you leave that on for?
The timer, see
Oh,
there?
I see. 4 minutes. Okay.
You can do 2 cycles. There's a 5 minute. If you push it a second time, it's a 10-minute cycle.
Wow. Do you do
And
10? Do you recommend 10?
I
Doesn't
if
matter.
if someone wants the highest hydrogen, they do 10.
Okay.
I don't personally because there's no need for high hydrogen. You just need hydrogen every day so that you have good energy, mental acuity, cognitive
Okay.
function,
And then
exercise. We have a lot of athletes.
do you have a bottle that also filters?
We do not have a bottle that filters. We have a pitcher, which is a half a gallon that has a
Okay.
filter.
Okay. Well, kind of like when you were to buy like the Brita something or
Yeah.
whatever, like that idea, but yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
So
it.
that you could theoretically put tap water in, it's going to remove all the stuff out of it that you would never want to put in your body. And then you just push a button and it makes hydrogen water.
And then what is like a Burka? Oh, is it called a Burka or
Berkey.
What does that do? That's different.
It's just a gravity fed filtration system. The filtration level is equivalent to the filtration in our machine.
The difference is yours adds hydrogen, is what we're talking about.
Yes, the
Blocking.
Berkey does not add hydrogen,
So
so
you
it's
could
just a
use, if
filtered
you
water.
have a Berkey, you could use that and then you still want to add the hydrogen though.
You could put the water in here
Makes
and make
sense.
it hydrogen. Yes.
Okay. So, so this is all new to me. All you listening to this, I'm learning this as we go here. So I have not tried this yet. I have
Right.
not. I have a bottle coming.
Yes.
I have a bottle coming to me, so I'm going to be trying this. I'm like so super curious about this whole system and filtration and everything. So I'm going to be learning as you all are learning here.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to link to make this all easy to find. I'm going to give you all, I have not by the time this airs, it's redirected midlifeconversations.com/echo water. So
Yeah.
midlifeconversations.com/echo water. It'll redirect you to exactly what we're talking about here. You can see what I'm trying, what he's recommending,
Yeah.
all of this. From what I'm hearing, Dr. Paul, give us kind of like just like a general price range, like on the lowest end to the highest end. So people have just some kind of idea. What does something like this cost to start doing this?
So our lowest price is $149.
Okay.
So it's very doable.
Yep.
This one is $249 retail.
Okay.
And then we go up into the 800 range and then up as high as 5,000. We have
that's to do like a whole home filtration system.
Well, we do have a whole home filter.
Okay.
That's only $29.95, and that is going to remove all your contaminants out of the water for
Wow.
your whole house, for showering, and for if you want your hair and skin to look great, get a whole house filter. But we only charge 3,000 for ours. It's very proprietary. But the $5,000 machine, it retails at 5,000. That makes 4 types of water. So it makes the hydrogen water for drinking.
Mhm.
It also makes alkaline water for cleaning dirt if you want a chemical-free kitchen.
Okay.
It also makes hypochlorous acid water for people that want to use it as an astringent on their skin. It's amazing for makeup removal. It's amazing for pink eye, for dry eye, blepharitis. It's wonderful as a mouth rinse. It kills gingivitis. It kills
Wow.
bacteria in the mouth. You also can rinse your vegetables to kill E. coli, salmonella, MRSA,
Whoa.
staph. So the people that get the higher end machine is because they want to have a chemical-free kitchen.
Yep.
We also have what's called the Echo Clean, which is a spray bottle that makes that same kind of
I
hypochlorous
saw that
acid
on your
water.
site. Super cool.
Yeah, and you just spray stuff and it disinfects. It turns tap water into a disinfectant.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, everyone listening, listen, if you're a quick start like me, I would say I don't understand why everyone wouldn't at least try that bottle just to
Right.
just to start right. I'm going to try it. I'll report back. But to me, like if there's even like a slight chance this could help offset, reverse, prevent,
Right.
why this is like we spend more of that on that getting our nails done, women. You know you do. We spend more money on this buying our bottled water at the store every day. We spend more money. Yeah.
And it's gorgeous. I can tell
to me,
you.
I'm gonna be the person in the restaurant with my bottle now. I'm gonna pour the water in it, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be that person. You all will see. Well, the big question is, do you make a pink bottle yet?
We can. We're talking about doing different colors.
We need
Blue,
a hot pink.
magenta.
That's because my people want hot pink.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
We need a hot pink. All right. So I'm going to report back. Paul, this has been really fascinating. Thanks for breaking this down for us. Okay. So everyone, midlifeconversations.com/echo water. And I'm going to be reporting back too. I'm sure if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see my new flashy bottle. It will not be hot pink yet because he hasn't made a hot pink yet.
Yeah,
but it'll still be cool. And I will report back and let you know how it's feeling. And I want to hear from you all. If you're listening, if you like this, if you're trying it, if you've got questions, tell us, comment, let us know what's going on. Share this if you found it helpful. Thanks, Dr. Paul. This has been fascinating.
Yeah. And just know that your skin will look different. Their collagen is stimulated by hydrogen.
Ooh.
And so your skin will be more supple. And the other thing is gut health. I know most of you may be wanting to eat certain types of foods you haven't been able to eat in a while. I'm not giving any guarantees, obviously, but I will tell you, most people that even something as simple as this bottle, if they'll drink 3 to 4 of these per day, these are 10 ounces of water. So it's not a lot of water. If they drink at least 3 to 4 of these per day for 2 weeks, there's a very strong chance that you will be able to eat foods like gluten and dairy that you haven't been able to eat in a long time. So try it, take the challenge, and understand.
And many of my listeners, by the way, they have been cleaning up their gut because they've been following me along on the journey. So they've done this. So this is like the perfect add-on that we're like now making sure we're keeping a healthy gut and fixing those things.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. This is awesome. Thank you.